It's a different flavor of discomfort, a specific flavor of feeling like an imposter. You won't feel like an imposter if you're doing something that's 3 levels below what you're actually capable of. You'll feel confident. I am still going to have a part in me that's going to feel, for whatever reason, like an imposter. And a way to override that and to simplify a lot of things, just say, welcome to today's podcast, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about how to actually crush imposter syndrome and why it's not to do with most people think about how to become more competent or to solve a certain competence gap, but why it's about actually crushing a certain psychological glitch that we all have. So on that note, Alex, welcome to the pod. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Itamar. Feeling like a bit of an imposter right now, but I'll do my best to contribute.
So it's interesting that you started out that way because it's the big thing. It's feeling like an imposter. And that's the key thing, that the biggest challenge with imposter syndrome is that we feel it, even though it's not accurate at times. Now, are there times when people do things they shouldn't be doing and put themselves in positions where they're not competent to be at? Absolutely. But are there also a lot of times when people actually hold themselves back from doing something or taking on something they could absolutely be capable of achieving because they don't feel like it's ready or they're not ready? And that's what I want to talk about today. Basically, how to differentiate between if you're having a valid concern that I shouldn't be doing this, or if it's just a feeling that you're having that I don't feel ready. I feel like a bit of an imposter that you just need to learn to get over and accept that's just a feeling you're going to have. Like how we talked in the previous episode about growth is going to be uncomfortable. This is just an uncomfortable feeling. It's just a different flavor of discomfort, a specific flavor of feeling like an imposter. Right? So on that note, anything you want to ask around before we get going?
No questions. I've obviously had my own experiences with it to some degree, but yeah, really interested to get into the topic a bit deeper and to find out how I can understand this arena, because I do understand that it affects a lot of entrepreneurs. So I'm interested to hear your take on it.
Yeah, cool. So I'll share mine. So first of all, before we get into that, I'll say like I've experienced it as well, and I still experience it. And I think it's a big thing to understand that it's part of life. It's part of that discomfort that we feel as part of growth and striving for bigger things, that goals that are bigger than what we currently can achieve, but are still with insane logic, let's call it. So the story I want to share is this, and we'll just call this one archetype of the entrepreneur David, but it's so many of these people that I meet, that they're undercharging or they're keeping their company really small or hiring people that are below the grade they should be hiring because they don't feel fully comfortable going for it. They feel like, who am I to do this? Am I good enough? Am I capable enough? All these kind of things. Now, the interesting thing is that everybody tells them you should be doing other stuff. You should be going bigger. They're like the objective outsider, the people that actually know their business, their mastermind buddies, coaches, friends, the spouse, whatever it may be, are like, hey, this doesn't make sense. You're actually very competent and you should be at least going for one tier above what you're doing now, whether it's your pricing, the people you're hiring, or just your ambition of what you're trying to do. But they don't feel comfortable about it. So that imposter syndrome wins out because they don't feel ready. Now, does that sound familiar, Alex?
Yes.
Same. And it happens to me as well. Like, I think this is something really important to explain. It's just a part of the experience that we have and grow. Like, the reality is, again, it's cliche, but we're wired to survive, not to thrive. And whenever we're doing something that's at our competency level, not way, way below it, where there's a giant margin of safety, we feel like there's a little bit of risk there. Ooh, someone might say this, or this might happen, or that might be, whatever it may be. So naturally, what our brain thinks is like, oh, this is a legitimate danger. It's like life and death. We're back in the savannah 100,000 years ago. That's how it evolved. And it kicks into overdrive. And all of a sudden it says, oh, wait, if you feel even a little bit of imposter syndrome, like you're not fully 100% sure they have a giant safe margin of safety, then drop yourself down a couple rungs. And only do that. That feels safe. You won't feel like an imposter if you're doing something that's 3 levels below what you're actually capable of. You'll feel confident. And while that kind of behavior that your brain tries to trick you into doing might feel safe, it's not effective in getting you towards your goals. And it's also completely unnecessary and not rooted in current reality. Now, and again, this is a really big thing. Imposter syndrome and all of these psychological glitches, most of these psychological glitches that we have came from evolution. And the way we evolved was in a very, very different environment than we are in today. And if we're not aware of these, let's call it evolutionary glitches that we've picked up along the way and how they don't translate into today's world, they really hold us back. They were meant to help us survive when the stakes were much higher, life and death, and danger was much, much, much bigger. But now they just kind of hold us back, and they're not valid. But they feel like a really big deal. And we get sometimes confused into listening to our feelings when they're not valid.
I think that's an important, not to try to turn this into a history lesson, but I think that's an important recognition of current reality in contrast to how most people have done things up until now. It's normal for people to change careers wildly several times in their life today. That wasn't always the case. People were sort of locked into a lane and you just kind of do that thing forever. And with information sharing, the advent of the internet, social media, etc., not only do people change careers or domains quite frequently, but there is a sense of, fake it till you make it, or brand yourself as one thing. Do you think that is further compounding this imposter syndrome that seems to affect a lot of entrepreneurs today?
To clarify, you're asking if them seeing that some people out there are just putting themselves out there when they shouldn't be, is that making them more hesitant to do so?
Yeah, maybe to be more accurate, but like 1,000 years ago, if I was a blacksmith, if you asked me what I'm going to be doing 5 years from now, it's probably being a slightly better blacksmith.
Yeah.
Whereas today, you could shift between real estate to launching a technology SaaS company to something else. And each time you're stepping into a new arena, there's probably going to be that intrinsic question of how well do I understand what I'm doing right now? Do you think that current reality of people shifting industries quite frequently and being, I guess, privy or having a snapshot into other people's lives and that sort of comparison trap is further compounding this imposter syndrome?
To be honest, I think the people that are shifting industries and doing those kind of things are actually less affected by it. If they were affected by the imposter syndrome, they wouldn't be doing that. And what you gave is it's a great example of it's very extreme. It's not just a level up, but it's an entire shift. It's an entirely different thing. And I think if someone's comfortable doing that, then they're probably not heavily affected by imposter syndrome. It's like most traits, we all have a little bit of them, but in just very varied amounts. And some of that is nature, some of that is nurture. Now, I think where this gets interesting is that, again, let's assume that if someone's very comfortable switching to a new career and just going for it, they don't feel a lot of imposter syndrome. It's not something that holds them back. But if someone is afraid to do that, even though logically it makes sense, they're in a dying industry, for example, it doesn't make sense to do that anymore, but it's just who they've been. Or on a smaller level, they're just afraid to take their life, their business, whatever it may be, to the next level. Because like, oh, this is just, I'm comfortable here, even though they really want to go there. And it's not that they're comfortable, they're just scared to go up. Those are the people that are actually getting impacted by imposter syndrome. Like for me and you as an objective outsider, we can say, hey man, this is a dying industry. Like even if you need to start over, that would be the wise thing to do. But for them internally, how they see the world, just I feel really scared to do this. Maybe I'm not good enough. What will people say? What will people think? What's going to happen? So the way I try to frame this again is that the way to know if imposter syndrome is valid or not is what would an objective outsider say? For example, Alex, do you think I should write a book about elite performance?
Yes.
Do I have merit for it? Cool.
Yes.
I agree with that logically. Sometimes I don't feel that way though. I can always, there's going to be a part in my mind that's always going to say, hey, but from that first unit, there were people that were a lot better than you. And you worked out from that first unit when you were 18. Or like, hey, you haven't worked with a lot of billionaires yet, so maybe you don't have this merit. And just accepting there's always going to be that little bit of voice of doubt. Even though you, as an objective outsider, or even me, when I'm calm and I'm clear and actually write things down, like what I've accomplished, what I've done, what I've helped people do, which is actually much more important. Like, yes, someone like that should be able to write a book about elite performance. That's valid. I am still going to have a part in me that's going to feel, for whatever reason, like an imposter. And I think a lot of times accepting that we have that part in us, but it doesn't mean it's valid. It's just a feeling. It's one of the flavors of discomfort that we need to accept and be like, oh, okay, it's there. I feel it. Not nice, but keep going anyway.
So that process of documenting your thoughts down, do you feel like there's something cathartic in that, which during that process, it forces you to go into strategic thinking as opposed to staying in the amygdala and giving too much gravity to our own doubts?
Yeah, for me personally, it's not cathartic. It's painful. Truthfully, it's very uncomfortable. Because what would be more cathartic, for example, would be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. That's easier. That feels more comfortable. But actually, it's a confrontation where you're putting down facts. I'm like, okay, this is actually what I've done, what I've helped other people do, what other people say I should be doing, like how you're saying right now, you should write a book. But I don't feel comfortable with that. Like initially, that's the whole imposter thing. I don't feel comfortable. So it creates this very kind of aggressive confrontation of here's the truth, here's how I feel. Fuck, I want to be the kind of person who does what is actually the truth, regardless of how I feel, if I know it's the right thing to do. So, I got to do this thing. That's the right thing for me to do.
Because logically,
again, sorry, go ahead.
When you force yourself to think about it logically, you can accept that you've achieved incredible things in your former life and in your current life. And so you can understand the landscape more accurately, as opposed to if you were trying to position yourself as the greatest wedding planner, you should feel imposter syndrome.
Yep.
Because I'm not too sure how many weddings you've planned, but probably not many. And so I think that disconnect of what am I actually doing or self-promoting is important, because I think that's where we can either get more accurate. Actually, no, I'm just taking an incremental gamble here. I'm doing something at a slightly higher level than before, and that's where this discomfort is coming from, as opposed to doing something entirely new and wondering why we're feeling like an imposter. So, like, nobody feels like when you're learning how to drive a car. I should know this. I'm 14 years old. I should know this. No, I understand I'm a student in that situation, and that it's all just stacking skills along the way. But if I feel like I'm an amazing entrepreneur and then I get a bankruptcy petition put against me or something else, then it could come from an identity gap as opposed to actually a skills gap.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there is a big part of it is like, what is the risk I'm taking on with this? The real world risk. So, for example, if I was like, let me ask you, Alex, do you think I should write a book about wedding planning?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Do you think I should charge someone $100K to plan their wedding?
No.
Great. Do you think that if I said, you know what, I want to stop performance coaching and I'm going to charge a friend, and I'm going, you know what, I found my passion. My passion is wedding planning. And I'm going to charge a friend who's planning their wedding, be like, hey, listen, man, if you pay me $2K for this thing, I'm going to like dump all my resources, all my energy, and I'm going to make you have a phenomenal wedding. Do you think that would be fair for everybody? That would be a good idea for me to start.
Yes.
Great. So that's what we did here. We just separated and like we said, okay, what would an outsider say is realistic, even if it's a completely new endeavor? What is fair and it's not going to cause you to like, do something unethical, which is, I think, a big part of when we see people that are faking it till you make it. It feels like they're doing something unethical, and it oftentimes is. Like, that's how you separate it. Now, it's going to take a little step back. Two main ways I like to overcome imposter syndrome. First, if you can have someone that's an objective outsider say what you should be doing. So you break it down. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. This is what we've achieved. These are our setbacks. They'd be like, great. What do you think should be our goals as a company? You'd be like, oh, okay. That's, I guess, what we should be doing regardless of how I feel. Because I'm going to have my insecurities. I'm going to have my doubts. I'm going to have my sense of imposter. It's going to be there. But this seems like a more objective truth. And again, it's a bit of a confrontation between how I feel and the objective truth. That's option one, having an external person. Option two is, if you don't have that, is to do it by yourself. But not by asking, how do I feel? What have I accomplished? Because the moment we start thinking about ourselves, we're going to muddy the waters. We're not really going to be writing it objectively. And a really weird and useful little psychological trick is just pretending this is a clone. This is a person X. This is an Itamar X. And just writing in third person, bringing some emotional separation. What has he done? What are the results he's achieved for clients? What is the process he has in place? Cool. If someone has all that, what would be a good goal for them to have? That's both audacious and realistic and ethical at the same time. Cool. Now I've clarified that. That's what should be their goal. How do I feel about it? Doesn't matter. I'm going to feel uncomfortable about it. Do it anyway, because that's what it should be. And that's where that confrontation, it's not cathartic. It's challenging. Like, I think it's much more comforting to be in our imposter syndrome. We get comfort. We don't get to challenge ourselves. Sometimes we can even get a sense of pity from ourselves or from others, or like staying small. But we get all these things. And it's easier to do that. But the big thing is, like, it's not comfortable. But this is what you know you should be doing. And what I'm trying to say here is that this keeps happening at various levels of the game. It keeps going on. And there's not going to be some kind of competence gap that once you conquer that gap, imposter syndrome is going to go away forever, no matter how high you keep striving. Like, basically think about like imposter syndrome, like a simple way, like I'll try to give a visual analogy. This is where you're usually better than I am. That imagine you're at level 2 of the game. Imposter syndrome will always tell you you're at level 1. And then when you advance to level 3, imposter syndrome will tell you, wait, you should only play comfortably level 2. And so on and so on. There's always going to be a bit of a lag of what you should be accomplishing. And you're going to want to put yourself down. That feels more comfortable. Like, as a black belt, in jiu-jitsu, there's no way I can feel like an imposter if I'm teaching a bunch of white belts, right? No way. It'd be very difficult. But if I teach other black belts, maybe that's a little bit uncomfortable. So my imposter syndrome, like, I'm only going to teach the beginner's class. Is that an effective behavior? No. Is it what feels more comfortable? Yes. Are they two different things? Yes.
That's fantastic. That's a way that I try to manage my staff with performance audits, is getting as granular as possible and trying to communicate it through math, or trying to bring some level of objectivity to what could be a very subjective performance review. So we can go line by line and give them hopefully the most accurate, objective audit as to how they're performing, because very rarely is their own internal quantum on their performance accurate to what I've observed as their employer. They are either way too confident, and I need to be the one saying, hey, there's actually a massive skills gap here, and you think you're a 10, but you're actually a 6. Or, and I believe I have an obligation to that staff member to, communicate that need for recalibration. Or they think that they're a 6 and they're actually a 10, and the same thing applies. Hey, you're actually far more competent than you're giving yourself credit for. And that lack of conviction is going to actually erode your value within this organization. So I don't know what's required, but something is required to recalibrate your actual competence to your confidence. And the more I've been able to manage people very granularly like that, it's helped avoid very subjective third parties coming in and giving feedback, because I might make one statement that was poorly worded, which could set them back, push on the bruise, so to speak, emotionally. So I found it a much better way of managing other people, and I'm trying to do a much better job at self-managing myself through a similar process, as opposed to subjective, clunky.
When someone has a higher competence than their confidence, and we want them to be able to do what they're actually capable of, not what they feel they're capable of. First off, it's about figuring out what are the actions that someone with these kind of skill sets should be taking. Very clear, like a standard, like you said. Clarifying these are the standards. And then, how you said, just accepting a certain price. There's going to be a discomfort there. It's going to be like, we can talk about fears, we can talk about this, or we can say, hey, there's going to be this price you're going to feel like an imposter. Are you okay with that? Now that you logically have separated this and you recognize this is the competency level, these are the actions that are wise to take, that somebody else I think should take. Logically, I can see that. And I'm just going to feel these feelings. Are you okay having a feeling and being okay with it? And I think that's the biggest thing to cross this imposter syndrome gap. It's not about saying, okay, I'm going to do a lot of work to become more competent and then I'll feel confident, no more imposter. It's saying, if I want to keep growing and I recognize there's always going to be this lag between what I'm actually capable of doing, what I'm comfortable doing, can I just accept that?
Mm-hmm.
That comfort, that like level of discomfort in this specific kind of way, which is an imposter way.
Yes.
I think that's the meta skill. Like for me, like when I put out the book, I still feel the imposter syndrome. When I coach some of these really, really, really big entrepreneurs, I still feel different levels of imposter syndrome. Like, hey, their business is much, much bigger than mine, or they're older than me, or whatever it may be. These things just exist. And I think it's one of those very freeing things when you just recognize maybe this is a non-issue. Now, again, a way to know if it's a non-issue or not is by running it through that litmus test. Like, what does somebody else say I should or shouldn't do that has merit in this department? Like when I asked you, hey, do you think I should write a book? Or if I don't have availability to that, I can separate it and be like, what would somebody else do here? Like if I wrote this Itamar X, person X, I say, should I coach these clients on how to build their business and how to build their sales team? No. Could someone like Itamar absolutely help them perform better and understand themselves better and how to get the most out of themselves? Absolutely. Cool. That makes sense. He should do that.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel still uncomfortable at times? Yes. Tough. You know what I mean? It just is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. I've been going through a similar situation recently. So my fitness business in Singapore is at capacity. We're starting the process of launching to franchise. And I'm feeling a sense of imposter syndrome, putting together the pitches or the proposals, the documentation, all the stuff that's required to sell franchises, because I've never sold franchises before. So I'm second guessing myself. I've done 18 different pitch decks. I'm on to my 19th. I'm just constantly looking at what I'm doing with a sense of second guessing myself and doubt. But if I can get out of that mindset and just look at, okay, what am I doing? I'm trying to sell a fitness. Yes.
What if instead of just asking, what am I doing, is ask, what is Alex doing? You speaking to yourself in the third person. Mm-hmm. Just pretending you're kind of rising above the room. You know, you look at yourself as like a spirit of Christmas past or whatever it may be. And just thinking like, what is Alex doing right now? Should he be doing this? It's wild how much clarity just that emotional separation can create. Instead of thinking, what am I doing? I was just like, what should Alex be doing? You know what? He should just put this pitch together. You should go to the first person, go to the third person. He'll figure it out along the way. Because again, like I've seen you give advice to other people. Like you're extremely sharp. Your business like acumen is spot on. You really know your stuff. And this goes again, not just for you, but for everyone. As soon as we start thinking about ourselves, our IQ plummets by like 40 points.
Yeah.
And a way to override that and to simplify a lot of things, to say, what should they do? Okay, am I uncomfortable doing that? Yes. Does it matter? Probably not.
Exactly. If I was to ask you, do you feel confident driving down to the 7-Eleven? You're like, I'm pretty sure I can put the key in the ignition, do the thing, and get there. I've done it a million times before. I can do it again. When I ask myself that when it comes to growing fitness businesses, when I'm feeling like an imposter, I bring a lot more complexity into it. The reason why I've done 18 different iterations of my pitches and so on is because I'm trying to think of every question someone might ask and how to front load that with it. So I'm layering all this complexity, and with every layer of complexity comes a new degree of doubt. But if I just ask myself, what is Alex doing right now? It's like he's trying to tell people how to build a very successful fitness business. Has he done this before? Yeah, he's done it like 6 times, and every time it's been a unicorn. Like when it comes to this, yeah, he could be a white belt in all other areas, but in this one, he's a 4th degree black belt, and all he's doing is like follow my system. It works. It produces X, Y, Z. Suddenly, all that complexity and doubt just evaporates to I don't need to have a very sophisticated pitch deck. The evidence is overwhelming.
So let's also ask this. When you look at Alex, does it matter if he doesn't have all the questions preemptively answered?
No.
Okay. But again, it would feel more comfortable for him. It feels safer if everything was already answered. And that's what it is. It just like kind of how you said, it kills our performance because it slows us down.
Mm-hmm.
Could I go, I don't know, get some accolades for myself. I'll climb Mount Everest, do an open ocean swim across the Atlantic, whatever it may be, to be able to tell myself I'm an elite performer. I could do that. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. Would it make me feel more comfortable emotionally? Maybe, yeah, some. Should I do it? No. It's not smart. Yeah. But I think that's just the big thing, to recognize, you know what, we just have this stuff. It is a part of it. It's part of the game. It just doesn't have to be that way. And I hope the two tools we provided today, both one of just asking an external party, or two, just to externalize it from yourself, either by asking what should your name do, what should Alex do, what should Itamar do, or just writing that down on a list, it will reveal the truth. And then, like we said, it's not going to be cathartic. It's actually going to feel like a bit of a confrontation. You're going to feel uncomfortable. It might feel a bit cathartic in the moment. You're like, okay, I should just do this. But then when you also step into actually doing it, that nagging voice of imposter syndrome, that flavor of discomfort is going to be there. Be like, maybe we didn't figure something out. Maybe we didn't think about this. And that's when you got to have a little bit of fight. You got to win that war within yourself and recognize this is just it. It's a voice here. It's not valid. It's not a valid warning sign. It's just emotional noise. I know what Itamar should be doing, so I'm going to do this regardless of how it feels in the present moment.
Brilliant. I feel more confident just through this conversation on something which I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. So it's been really, really helpful.
Beautiful. All right. So here's the kind of the extras I want to give you guys at home if this resonates as well. Either ask someone externally what you should be doing. If you have someone like that you know and trust, both as far as their intentions and their level of competence and merit in your field. Or two, just run this exercise by yourself. Now, whatever it is that you find what this person should be doing, this clone of me, what should they be doing? Circle the highest leverage action. Then schedule when you actually do it. Preferably if you can actually launch it in the next 24 hours, like if you can actually schedule it, Alex, for example, your first pitch within the next week or whatever it may be, but actually schedule it. If you're like, this is more than good enough, I know I need to schedule it, that would be the thing to do. And then if that hits, please also share it with me, whether it's in DMs or emails. I'd love to hear about it. Aside from that, I hope today's podcast was helpful, and we'll see you in the next one, guys.